We're here today with Cassandra Greene, and she has been the director of the Morse Ford Bridge lynching reenactment in Monroe, Georgia for many years. Cassandra, how many years have you been doing that?
I started directing the Morse Ford Bridge lynching reenactment in 2008, so that is 13 years this year.
Wow. And you recently received a Lifetime Achievement Award. Could you tell us the whole name of your award and a little bit about what that was for?
Okay. It is the Presidential Lifetime Achievement Award that is signed by President Biden and Vice President Kamala Harris. Someone submitted me for it. I didn't even realize they had done it for my work in civil and human rights, which I have worked with civil and human rights issues for almost 37 years. So
Wow.
It's just for a culmination of domestic violence, human rights, all the different things that I did. And so I'm honored. I'm deeply honored and humbled by it.
Congratulations.
Thank you so much.
That is quite an honor and
Thank you.
quite a well-deserved recognition for all the work that you've done.
Thank you.
So Cassandra, I know that your family went through some really tragic events recently that are related to the Black Lives Matter movement, and I would be really privileged if you would share a little bit about what happened and what you'd like to see be done.
On December 29th, I believe it was, my nephew, Jamal Sutherland, in my hometown of Charleston, South Carolina, was going through some psychotic episodes. He was schizophrenic, and so he had contacted me 3 times that morning, like 5-something in the morning. Normally I would hear that because I do a lot of things with people that are high risk, and I usually hear my phone, but that particular night I didn't. And he had texted me 3 times during the night saying that he wanted to come to Atlanta. He felt like his life was in danger, please let him come. He'd fly, he wasn't afraid to fly anymore. And then the last text that he sent me was ASAP. I did not get those messages until like 7:15 that morning, and I didn't call him. I called his mother, who's my sister, and I asked her, what was going on, and she gave me some details. And then he came to the door because he heard me talking, and he got on the phone, and he was telling me, some things that he felt. He felt like somebody was trying to kill him, and as a mental health, I'm a certified CPSP with the Georgia Department of Behavioral Health in Georgia. So I talked to him like I would anyone else to see where he was, and then I allowed him to share. And the bottom line is, his final thing was, okay, Auntie, this is what I'm going to do. Instead of trying to come to Atlanta right now, I'm going to go to the hospital, get stable, and then I want to come and visit you for a week or 2. And I was like, of course. And so the last thing he said, well, he talked about his music because he loved music. And then the last thing he said was, Auntie, I feel like I'll feel safer at the hospital. What do you think? And as a mental health care activist, advocate, it was like, absolutely, that is great. Go get stable and then come and see me. And so we laughed a little bit, and he got off the phone. And then, so later on that day, my sister took him to the hospital. On January the 5th, something took place at the mental health hospital where he was with 5 patients. And whoever the nurse was in charge that night, she decided to call the police. My nephew was probably the biggest person there because he was like 6'2", 6'3", tall kid, big kid, and but gentle, always been very gentle. Anyway, when they called the police, they took 2 of the patients to jail, which I'd never heard of that. You don't take mental health patients, because he was in crisis already. You don't take mental health patients from a mental health facility to jail. So we were told that he made a statement that if he went to jail, that he would not make it till that morning, till the next morning. And that morning, they got a call. My sister got a call that he was dead. And the videos were released a couple of months ago. The videos were released. And in the video, you heard him crying out, just hallelujah, 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 hallelujah. Why are you doing this to me? You know? And with someone that is in crisis, they don't understand, you know, what's happening. Why am I in jail? What, you know, what is happening? And so the thing, it came out that they had tased him 6 times, which stopped his heart. And so he died.
So they tased him 6 times?
Mm-hmm. So they tased him 6 times, and he died. And I think the hardest part for me was hearing him cry out, and then seeing them when he went unconscious. They had him already handcuffed and legs and handcuffed. When he went limp after they had tased him, they moved him. We watched them move him over to a chair and sit him up in a chair. And when they they had put a spit mask on, which they say they always do. That's a part of what they do. They removed the spit mask, which he had not spit on anybody, but that's part of what they say is their guidelines. They removed the mask, and I just saw my nephew's head fall to the side, and I knew that he was dead. I actually felt like he was dead earlier, you know, but I actually I saw his head just drop to the side. I was devastated. I wept and screamed for I don't know how long. I could not get myself together. It took me like 2 days to not just bust out crying every time I thought about it. And then the thing that hurt me the most is I kept hearing the conversation that him and I had that morning. And then I have the text messages, which I've never shown anyone, not even his mother. No one has seen the text messages. And I shared with you, and I think there may be 2 or 3 people that I actually have even told what the text messages said. Wow. But so it made national news once the videos came out, and President Biden said that he was being kept abreast of the case, and it was on national news. There were protests in South Carolina. They fired the 2 police officers. They did fire them. They were trying to get a conviction, or get them charged. But from what I understand, I don't know right now where that is. But my thing is all about legislation and changing the dynamics, the guidelines, the protocols, everything that has to do with how people, not just black people, but how people with mental health, how they are treated in the judicial system. So they say that the police officers are trained to deal with these situations, but everything shows me that I see and that I protest about shows me, even before my nephew, that they do not do that. They must not be very well trained in dealing with people with mental health, because even here in Georgia, we've had several people with mental health issues, naked people killed. How do you kill a naked person with nothing? You know, the young man, I think it was in Gwinnett County or Cobb County. And then I stand with Tanisha Tilson, who is the mother of Shawlee Tilson. Shawlee was died in Rockdale County Jail about 3 years ago, and he was on suicide watch. And they finally got the tape recently, and they're supposed to check on him every 15 to 20 minutes. No one checked on him for 8 hours, and he sat in a corner and died.
Oh gosh.
So my thing is, why do we treat people with mental health like that? What is the justification for treating a person less than human? And so, that is an issue for me, not just Black lives, but any life.
Sure.
Any life. So my thing is, people are talking about, well, your sister was awarded $10 million from this person, and, she has all these other lawsuits. Who gives a damn? My nephew can never be replaced with any amount of money.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm happy that my family has been blessed and she's been blessed, but that has nothing to do with what needs to be done to honor my nephew's life.
When you lose somebody, no amount of money
And
can make up for that.
Yeah, no money can replace that. Yeah.
And there have been numerous cases like this all over the country.
Absolutely. And it's just that now videos have made it easier. Police cams, have made it easier. There are a lot of things why we see it now. It's not that this is new. And I want people to understand that. This is nothing new. Nothing new. But now we have all of these different technologies that we can use to see what is going on.
So now there are video witnesses that
Absolutely.
show and reveal what's been
Exactly
happening
what's
for
been
a long
happening
time.
for years. Yeah, absolutely.
So part of some of the changes that you want to see, do you have specific thoughts about that?
Well, one of the things that I would like to see is that once they know that that is a mental illness, that they treat them like they have a mental illness and get them to a hospital and not under arrest. Because if you are mentally ill, what is a jail? What do they have at a jail that can help you? Nothing. But when people are mentally ill, and sometimes there are family members there telling you, like my nephew, you picked him up from a mental hospital, which never should have happened. So you need to recognize that the person has mental health issues and get them to somewhere where they can be helped. A jail cell is nowhere for a mentally ill person. So I would like to see, them take more steps, more guidelines and protocols as to how they handle the mentally ill. That's my biggest thing. We have to do something different.
Absolutely. And it seems like tasing, I mean, if you can tase somebody 6 times and kill them and stop their heart, and he didn't have a heart condition, did he?
No, he was healthy as an ox. He was healthy as 2 oxes.
So how dangerous is tasing then
Yeah.
if you can stop somebody's heart?
Absolutely.
And if somebody's already bound, why
do you need to even... That was my thing when I watched the video. Why, with him handcuffed and bound, why are you tasing him? I don't, that part totally escapes me.
So you couldn't see any reason from the video why they
No, and anybody that watches it, I have had no one that saw the video tell me that they understood why he was tased. It wasn't like he was fighting. You understand what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
If he was fighting you, handcuffed and bound, that's something different. But he's bound.
I mean, if a person is in a jail or in a jail cell or even in an open area, they're bound. They can't go anywhere.
Where are they going?
Even if they're resisting,
Yeah.
all you have to do is stand away. I mean, I don't understand.
Yeah.
I don't understand.
Well,
I mean,
that's it. That's that. You are where I am, and it has definitely done something different to me. I've always done advocacy work and activism work. I've marched for everybody and everything, but bringing it home to my family made it even more personal. And then the fact that my nephew contacted me the very day that he went to that hospital, it just is very painful for me. So I've had to relive and go over hearing his voice, telling him, him saying, hey, I want to, I think I'm going to go ahead and go to the hospital because I think I'll feel safer. What do you think? And as a mental health person, me saying, yes, definitely. If you feel safer, that's the place to go. But that wasn't the reason I said that to him. The reason I said that to him is that is what you needed. He was in crisis. He needed help. He needed to get stable. So, of course, anyone, reasonable person, would have said, yes, go get stable.
Well, of course, that would be the logical thing because there are doctors, psychiatrists,
Absolutely. Yeah, people
who
there
can
to do that.
evaluate him, medication if he
Yes,
needs medication
yes,
or
yes,
whatever,
absolutely.
psychotherapy, whatever he needs.
Yes. That's where he should have been able to get that help.
Had he been there before?
Yes.
So
He had been to this
they
house.
knew
They knew
him.
him. Well, I don't know whether this person that was on that night, because he'd been there multiple times.
But so the hospital system had records.
They failed him. They knew his condition. So there was absolutely, as far as I can, figure, and as far as me knowing about mental health hospitals and procedures, I've never heard of that before. So this was something totally new to me. And it is devastating to me because, like I said, when he asked me about going and feeling safe, what safer place
could you imagine for someone in crisis?
What for someone in crisis, what better place than for him to say, hey, and then it was his decision. See, a lot of times mental health patients don't get to make the decisions for themselves. That's why I wanted to, and as a mental health, person, I wanted him to say, you know what, Auntie? I think I'm going to go to the hospital and get stable. That way you're giving him his power. Even though he's in crisis, you're allowing him to have the power over deciding what happened with his life.
It was really his decision.
It was his decision.
How did you ever even bring yourself to watch those tapes? I mean, that must have been unbelievably difficult.
Let me tell you, there are 5 tapes out about his videos about his killing, his death. It's a killing. And I don't know why I chose that, but I was looking at the 5 of them, and it was like, watch this one. And I regret watching that video. That was the only one I watched. My friends, my family members, many of them have watched all of them. I barely made it through that one because when his head dropped, I started screaming, and I don't know how long I was screaming because I could not believe that I had just watched my nephew die in front of my eyes. And it, like I said, it is haunting me because he thought enough of me to contact me the day that he was preparing to go to the hospital to, like, can I come to Atlanta today?
Yeah.
And in my head, should I have just told him, yeah, come on? No, because he was in crisis. It would not have been safe for him to get on a plane and try to come to Atlanta while he was in crisis.
Well, and you don't know if he would have made it.
That's what I'm saying.
If he had some kind of a breakdown in the airport.
That's what I'm saying. You don't know what could have happened. Mm-hmm.
Normally you would think that would be worse.
Mm-hmm. That's what I'm saying. But, but I'm human, so I keep going through in my head, should I have said something different? Should I have done something different? And no one can take the pain that I feel away from me. I have to work through it myself, and it has not been easy at all. It has not. It is like a daily thing that I deal with, and I know that, people may not understand, but I'm in my own personal hell right now trying to deal with Jamal's death.
Well, and they talk about moral injury, when you are affected by the violence that other people create, and you're powerless to fix it, and you try to do what you think is ethical and helpful, and it turns out to be a violent situation that you did not create or participate in. And that powerless feeling, I think, of not being able to prevent that.
Yes.
And
Yes.
somehow feeling like you got caught in the middle of something horrific.
And that's the way I feel. And I think that's the way I feel about Morse Ford Bridge lynching reenactment that I direct. My nephew's death even taught me something about why I'm fighting for justice for a 75-year-old case, because I feel like families have a right. I'm sorry.
You're okay.
Families have a right to have justice. I don't care if it's 100 years. I don't care if it's a year, 3 years. Families have a right to have justice. And that's for the people from the Holocaust. And that's why I feel, I feel so passionately for the Jewish community and what they went through, because people act like, oh, y'all just need to forget about it. It was 70-something years ago, y'all going after people. But, it doesn't matter. Unless you have experienced that kind of pain, you have no idea. I don't care if it's one person or it's 6 million people. People have a right to find justice for their families, for their history.
So I was asking if you ever found out what happened inside the hospital that precipitated them to call the police.
They said that there was a conflict with maybe 5 or 6 of the patients, and the nurse in charge she felt like she couldn't get control, which to me is a job of orderlies. When you have that problem, which you're in a mental hospital and that happens, then you should have orderlies that can, help restrain, get them, if they have to be sedated, get them sedated and get them to their rooms. If you call the police, which I don't see why they should have had to do that, then they should have had the police help them restrain, sedate, and get whatever, and get them to their rooms, get them separated. So I don't understand why they ended up having to call the police at a mental hospital on mental health patients that are in crisis. Yeah.
What are your thoughts about tasing? Do you think it should be illegal? Or do you think there should be parameters for its use?
I think there should be parameters for its use. Let me tell you why. Because I would rather see them tase people within reason than for them to shoot them.
Sure.
You understand what I'm saying? So tasing, shooting. Unless they're going overboard, I'd rather see them tase somebody than to shoot them. Unfortunately, the tasing has caused death in some cases. That's because those people were just doing what they wanted to do. But if, like, you just hey, you can only tase them one time. Hit them one, and once they're down on the ground, y'all need to get them under control and keep it moving. Something. That's what I'm saying. There has to be guidelines in place that keep the police officers safe, because I'm not a defund the police person. I'm sorry. I don't even think that makes sense. And not in the society that we're living in right now, and not in the atmosphere that we're living in right now. And the fact that they keep trying to act like all black people want the police to fund it, that's a lie. Because most of the black people I know, we want police presence. We want them to care about the communities that they're working in, but we definitely want their presence.
Right.
What would it look like in Atlanta if the police was defunded and they're not?
Right.
No, ain't nobody stupid. Don't act like we're stupid. No, we want there to be, just guidelines and parameters that they stay within these certain, okay, we're not going to, and then I would love to see more community policing. When I was growing up, and we know it's all spread out, people doing whatever, but I knew the police officer in my neighborhood, and he did not play with us. He did not play with us kids. It's like, you better get your behind home. Girl, I mean, we knew him by name. He knew us by name. And it's like, we did not play because we knew he would go to our house, knock on the door, and tell your mama what you doing. And it was on and popping. You know it was going to be on and popping, just like the school teachers. We've changed things so much because of our free living, I don't know what you call it, but...
One of the things I was thinking about when you said they tased him 6 times in the jail was, is that outright cruelty? Is that people's adrenaline gets, triggered and they're afraid and they get in that adrenaline mode and they can't stop themselves? I know some there's been, I think, conversation inside the police department and outside, I guess by certain police officers and also by the communities about mental health services for police, because they are traumatized and they're scared sometimes. And like the man who was trying to break up some kind of an incident on the street, and his kids were in the car, and he was son of a well-known, he's an African-American man, son of a very well-known community member, and he was trying to break that up, and the police, he went in his car, and the police shot him 7 times in the back. And you hear, and he's paralyzed now, that was in the last year, I believe, and you hear about some of these things where people are shot so many times after they're already either completely incapacitated or they're dead.
That's,
Why?
Yeah. I don't have the answer for that, but I think about the gentleman in South Carolina that on video you saw him running away. I mean, whatever he was running from, he was running away. No weapon, because he'd already had no weapon on him, running away from you, and you shoot him in the back and kill him? I don't get that, because you know who he is, so you can find him, so that's not going to be... That's just like Rashad Brooks.
Yeah.
You got his car, you got his ID, all of that's done, and okay, he obviously they said he'd been drinking, so he's intoxicated, doing something stupid, but he's running away, and once again, he gets killed. It's just some things I don't quite understand. And I'm not saying the black community is some perfect group of people and nobody's doing anything wrong. We know that's a lie, because we have a lot of crime within our own neighborhoods. But I think what people don't realize is that, yes, we recognize that we have black on black crime, but when it's perpetrated by people that are supposed to be protecting you,
Right.
that's something totally different. You are there to protect and serve. So that's the way you want us to look at you. But when you have these different incidences going on, we don't feel like you will protect us. We know you're not serving us when those certain incidents. I'm not talking about all police officers.
Right.
Because the majority of police officers are wonderful people that truly care about their community.
Right.
They truly care about taking care of people. But that, if you just have that small number that's doing the crazy stuff, that is what people will focus in on.
Well, and Yes, many police officers risk their lives every day.
Every day.
Just like firefighters.
Mm-hmm.
But in that profession, when people have weapons and they make mistakes, the level of tragedy and the level of violation and violence is at a critical level. So you know, you can't afford to have people in that profession who can't handle it.
Distrust, and then it causes distrust in our community, and I hate that. I hate that people feel like they're afraid to call the police.
Yeah.
We should not be afraid. That's who we should call when there's a problem. But now you have people that are totally afraid to call the police, even when something is going on.
I feel afraid sometimes for my African American friends. You know, I look at their kids and I think, God, I hope you get to grow up. And that stresses me out. You know, and then I was reading, and this blew my mind, although, you know, all of this is mind-blowing even more so, but I was reading about an African-American mother, and she was saying that the kids used to play, teenagers, you know, they play on the side of the road, and the police officer would come up because they needed people for a lineup that were a certain skin color, and so they pay the kids a couple dollars to go be in a police lineup. My mother would have had an absolute cow, and if it was my child, I would be enraged, because then you've got a kid whose picture's in a lineup and gets associated, or you know, familiarity. People can start making mistakes, and what kind of a message is that to a teenager?
No, absolutely, I agree.
You know, or to a community. I mean, I just things like that you know, a white mother or father would never ever think about could happen. And
even racial profiling, period.
Oh, yeah.
Racial profiling, period. You know, people have no idea, man. I had to start at a very young age, you know, talking to my son, who's 47 now. I had to start very young, you know, telling them, you know, hey, don't do this, don't do bully, blah, 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 blah. I mean, white people don't have to tell their kids that kind of stuff. And that bothers me and now I have 3 grandsons in their 20s. People have no idea how traumatizing it is, because you're constantly on edge. Oh God, I don't want him to get stopped. You know, hey, make sure you know your paperwork right. Make sure you do this. Make sure you do that. Other people don't have to do that. You know, if you get stopped, you know, just make sure you keep your hands under. Don't move. Don't. I mean, it's like, who wants to live like that? In the country, the land of the free, the home of the brave, and all that stuff that they say, but yet I live in fear as a 62-year-old woman. I live in fear of being stopped. And I feel like I've been profiled before. You know, in Johns Creek. My daughter was living out in Johns Creek in a very, you know, nice gated community. And I was going there one morning coming from an event in that area. My car was packed with the stuff from the event that I had done. And I'm going to her house like 2, 3 o'clock in the morning coming from this event. And I passed by this police car, and it was like, he's going to stop you. I was like, stop me for what? I'm not speeding. You know, what if I haven't done anything? It's like, he's going to stop you. And I declare, I was getting ready to turn go to the gate where she lived, and I was like, I'll be dog. He did stop me. Now, think about it. I'm bald. He may have just gotten a glance at me. He may have thought I was a guy. I don't know. You know what I'm saying? But he walks up, you know, with the little hand. You know how they do. And so when he walks up, I said, officer, can you tell me why you stopped me? And he said, I just want to do a check. He realized I was a female.
Wow.
And I said, well, my daughter lives right here. I'm going to her house. I said, but what did I do? He said, well, I just want to check your registration.
Wow.
That's what the tag is for. That's what the
Wow.
tag is for. All you had to do is run my tag.
Wow.
And you would have seen the insurance was straight, the registration, there was no reason for you to stop me. So I said, but what did I do? Why you stopped me? And he was like, well, I just wanted to check your, and I said, sir, I said, I'm getting ready to get I said, because I'm going to get you the registration and stuff. And so I reached in, gave him my insurance card, the registration for the car, which was all in my name. And so he walked back to the car. Literally, he did not even get in the car. He said he was going to check. I watched him walk back to the car. I just sat there and I'm looking in my, I didn't want to turn around, or anything, or do anything. So I'm looking at him. He walked over to his car. He stood there. He walked back. He said, you have a good night, man. I said, well, if you were going to take me to jail, I'm so exhausted. I just wanted to tell you that please make sure that I have a bunk with a soft mattress. And he laughed. No, ma'am, I wasn't going to take you to jail because you had no reason to stop me.
Wow.
And black people go through that all the time.
That's awful.
It's profiling.
It's harassment.
Yeah, exactly. You couldn't even tell me why you stopped me at 3 o'clock in the morning because I'm black and I'm in Johns Creek. There's plenty of black people that live in Johns Creek now. But
I mean, that's harassment to be stopped for no reason.
No reason. No reason. He could not give me a reason. He just wanted to check my registration. Which the tag would have given him everything he needed.
That's scary in the middle of the night.
In the middle of the night, 2, 3 o'clock in the morning. It was like between 2 and 3.
Were you by yourself?
I was by myself.
Wow.
Yeah. So, it's just, it's sad, but we have to talk to our children and our grandchildren and be afraid. And, I remember, I think it was a few months ago, the young man that was heading home, and he called his mom and said, hey, they're stopping me, why do we have to be afraid of the police? We should not be afraid of them.
Yeah.
But we have a reason to be afraid of them sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? So, anyway.
Well, and if there are people who are racist in the police force, you've got post-traumatic stress, and then you've got outright racism, or personalities that are not fit in whatever way.
They're not there for service. They're there for power and control. Those are the people that scare me the most if they're in law enforcement. Because it's about power and control. What you could do to someone, and what kind of fear you can put in them, and it's just not good.
Yeah. Well, Cassandra, I'm just so grateful to know you, and I'm so grateful for you giving this time today, and for you, just the courage that you have in the way you live your life in so many different ways, and as a minister, as a person who works with domestic violence, as a director of a reenactment. That's a tough thing for people to do. I mean, it's very emotional. It's very takes a lot of emotional energy for people to do that every year. And in your work as an actress, and just so many different things that you do, that as an advocate, as an activist, I just really appreciate this time.
Thank you.
And thank you for letting me interview you today.
You're welcome.